Hi, I'm Daryl Mazo with the law firm of Teeple Hall in San Diego, California. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about how companies successfully raise capital. First, a little bit about me. I have over 20 years experience in law, corporate finance, executive and turnaround management for both public and private companies. My legal practice focuses mostly on corporate and transactional work, but as well I provide business advisory services in the areas of corporate finance, corporate development, strategic planning, as well as turnarounds and restructurings. I've broken this presentation into 3 parts, partially because there's quite a bit of information, and partially because I don't want to bore you with one long presentation that I really don't think you'd finish. Today, I'm going to give you an introduction to what I think are some of the more important components of raising capital, and will leave you with some thoughts and questions to ponder over before regrouping again next week for part 2. So now, let's dive in. In my experience, the companies that are most successful in raising capital understand that it's a process. You may have heard of people raising tens of millions of dollars back in the late 90s and the early 2000s based on a plan on the back of a napkin. Well, I can tell you those days are pretty much long gone. There are many reasons why a company may need additional capital, but I've listed a few of the more common ones here. You may need new money for growth, possibly new contracts, or you want to fund working capital. Maybe you need to buy new equipment. Maybe you're looking for somebody to share risk. And maybe you're just looking to take some money off the table. There's one particular item I wanted to focus on in this discussion that's a common thread in most companies raising capital, and that is a SIM. A SIM is a confidential information memorandum. It contains all of the important information about your company. Most people refer to it as a SIM simply because it's much easier to say than confidential information memorandum every time. I think that all companies, big or small, should really have some type of SIM. It doesn't matter how simple or complex your business is, and it doesn't matter how big or small it is. This is really about being prepared. So a SIM, one is obvious. It gives the potential investor pretty much all the information in a structured and complete fashion that he or she would most likely want to see. It makes the process much more efficient, and it really does create a faster road to getting the capital that you're looking for. The second reason that a SIM is important is that it helps you prepare. It makes you really think about what you want, why you want it, and more importantly, it makes you gather information and be proficient and concise in presenting the company the way you want to. You're really writing the story of your success. For capital, you should ask yourself a few questions. The first one is really pretty obvious, but still, it's important. We already addressed it. Why do you need more capital? After you've addressed that threshold question, you really need to know what type of capital you're looking for. Do you even know that there are different types, that they are best used for different purposes? It really does matter for more reasons than you think. Really, it's important to know what you're looking for and why you're looking for it before setting out on your path. Why you need it most likely will drive what you need, and how much you need may also determine where you can get it and the type that you can get. In general terms, 2 different types of capital, equity and debt. I know, it sounds pretty basic, and it is, but there are different types of equity and many different types of debt. Each one has its own best use. Let's go through some broad categories, starting with equity. Each type of capital has its own characteristics. With equity, some of the more important aspects to consider are the ones that are here. It's really long-term capital, and usually it is the most expensive. I can say almost always it's the most expensive. Equity shares in ownership with you. Depending upon the type of equity that you're selling, it may have the same ownership rights that you do. And generally, if it is the same type of ownership as you, the investor won't get paid back before you. There are some variations. It can get a bit confusing, and I'm not really sure they're important to discuss here, so let's just leave equity as one broad category and easier to differentiate. Let's start with what everyone thinks about when they say they're going to get a loan, and that's senior debt. Senior debt usually has all of these basic characteristics. It's short-term to medium-term capital. It is less expensive than equity almost always. It rarely receives ownership. You have to pay it back with interest on a regular basis. Normal repayment terms can be anywhere from maybe 1 to 5 years, could be longer, really depends upon why you're borrowing the money. It's usually secured by some, if not all, of the company's assets, and many times the lender is looking for a personal guarantee from the owners. And it is by far the cheapest. Today, senior debt can come from a variety of sources. Traditionally, it came from banks, and it still does, but in today's financial markets, there are other providers of senior debt, including finance companies, private debt funds, hedge funds, business development companies, family offices, friends and families. The list grows and on and on and on and on. But this type of debt comes in a variety of shapes and sizes. You can use it for, say, working capital needs with a revolving credit facility. It can be a term loan for kind of other general growth needs. It really just depends, but there are various reasons to have senior debt. Debt is junior debt. Sometimes this is referred to as subordinated debt, sometimes mezzanine debt. From its name, you can probably guess that if it's junior, it has to be junior to something, and yes, you're correct, it's junior to senior debt. So you only look for this type of debt if you have senior debt and can't get any more or enough. Then you have to find someone who's willing to bridge that gap, lend you additional money, but wait patiently behind your senior lender before they get paid back. Because of this, junior debt is more expensive than senior debt. It also has these general characteristics. Like senior debt, it's short-term to medium-term capital. It is less expensive than equity, but generally it is much more expensive than senior debt. It does usually receive some type of equity kicker. Normally it's paid back with interest on a regular basis during the term of the loan. Repayment terms can be similar to those of senior debt. And also, many times with junior debt, you may not pay principal during the term, but only interest, and then pay a balloon payment for part, if not all, of the principal at the end. The last type of debt lease financing is a great tool to utilize if you're looking to purchase new equipment for manufacturing, or if you're purchasing a new computer system or some other type of IT infrastructure. It's really just equipment financing, but has some great benefits. Generally, lease financing has the following characteristics, and generally, if not always, lease financing and equipment financing are a special type of senior debt. So lease financing, you can use it, as you just mentioned, to finance equipment purchases. You can also use lease financing if you own the equipment, but you want to sell it back to a leasing company or a lender and then lease it back from them. That way you can actually get money from the equipment you currently own and then pay back a new loan. It helps relieve large outflows of cash for equipment purchases. You make regular monthly payments just like you would on any other type of loan. The terms can vary depending upon the useful life of the equipment, and many leases are similar to equipment financing and let you purchase the equipment at the end, and that would generally be called a capital lease. The different basic types of capital, I think you can see that it really does matter. You need to know how much you need, why you're going to use it. You need to understand the pluses and minuses of each type of capital, and you should really understand the cost of the different types of capital. So we've talked about what you're looking for and why. All about you. As much as I joke to my friends that this is the year of Daryl, and I do think it is, I know unfortunately that in reality it's not. This is as much about the investor as it is about you and your company. What does an investor need? Why will an investor invest in your company? Any investor that you really want as a partner will really want the following information. He'll want to understand your business. He'll want to understand the risks of your business in the investment. He'll want to know how to mitigate those risks. He'll want to know that this investment fits their investment criteria, and the investor will want to know that he trusts you and that he likes you. And lastly, this is an investment. She wants to know that they will make money. Taking the time to put together the information that accurately reflects this will really help you. It will help you put together a story that shows not only your enthusiasm for your business, but also how that enthusiasm has translated into success and will translate into success for an investor as well. This isn't a sales job. This is showing demonstrable evidence on why money invested with you is a good choice. It's also your way of vetting potential investors that you don't want to be partners with. You don't just want the money, you really want a partner that believes in you and what you're doing, not someone who wants to make wholesale changes in everything in exchange for their money. Unless you're selling your business, don't even think about selling your soul just for dollars. I guarantee it will lead to failure. So all of this discussion, that's right, the SIM. Hopefully by now you've figured out that a confidential information memorandum is a fancy name for a business plan. It's a business plan for how I'm going to take an investor's money and give that investor a return via the success of my company. I'm going to do that by telling him why I'm excited about my business, what the business did in the past, what it's doing now, what it's going to do in the future, and even if I don't have new capital, the business will still achieve positive results. Too many times I've seen business owners come in and say, my business is great, but without this investment, my business is going nowhere. Well, would you invest in a company that only has one chance to survive by getting new money? I can tell you that I would run away fast. Anyway, in general, any SIM should contain some basic information such as the following. You should have kind of an executive summary, a real broad overview. You should have a section on key investment merits. Then you should have a section that's really a business overview, an industry overview. You should be able to talk about your management and employees. And lastly, and obviously, you should talk about the financial information of your company. Now, just because this document has a fancy name doesn't mean it has to be long. Some might be 100 pages, some may be 10 pages. It just has to tell the right story and contain some necessary information. There's a saying that's really pretty true. The prettiest book is usually the ugliest deal. I can't tell you how many times I'd receive a book on a company that was leather bound or really overly done, and when you look at the information, the first thing you see is that the opportunity is just not good in any way. Maybe a simpler way to say it is don't put lipstick on a pig. It's great to have pictures and graphs and things that really do add value, but I think you get my drift. So now, company. Think about why you decided to get involved in the business. Think about why your company is a key player in the industry and why your company is the right one to invest in. Next week, we can get into some specifics about the plan and what it should contain. Again, this is Daryl Mazo with the law firm of Teeple Hall. It's been a pleasure spending this time with you, and I look forward to picking back up next week. Thanks.